Okay, string2. I'm excited. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so given a string, return a string where for every char in the original, there are 2. Pause and try this one. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm going to start with a result string. And by the way, I know you might be rusty because we haven't talked about loops in a while, and you do need a loop to solve this. So I'll go ahead and show you how we could do this one. So what I'm going to do is I want to loop through every character in the string. So there's this thing called an enhanced for loop that lets me iterate through everything in an array, but a string is not an array. However, string, the string type, has a nice method called toCharArray that lets me easily convert from a string to an array of chars where that char array contains the same contents as the string. So to loop over every char in a string, I can say for char c colon stir.toCharArray. So basically how this enhanced for loop works is you put the type of the elements of the array here. So I'm looping over a char array, so the elements of the array have type char. And then just the name of whatever you want to call the current character you're working with. And then you put a colon, and after the colon you put an array. So a string, if I just put stir here, that would not be okay because string is not an array. But if I do .toCharArray, now I have an array of chars that contains the same content. So that will work here, and now C will be the current character I'm working with. So I just need to add C twice because for each character in the original string in stir, I want to add that character twice to my result string to double it. So I'm going to say result plus equals C, result plus equals C. I'll talk about that in just a second, why I'm repeating that, like why I'm doing it this way. And then I just return my result. And that will do that one. Now, let's talk about how this works here. So notice that, well, first of all, let's talk about the plus equals real quick. So, of course, this means that result is, this line is the same as saying result equals result plus C, right? And this result plus C, so result is a string, but C is a char. And we know that if we add a string, if we concatenate a string with any other type, that other type will be converted to a char, as if I had said string.valueOf, right? Now, if I try to just say result plus equals C plus C, if I try to do this, this would not work because C plus C, neither of these things are strings. So this plus is not going to do concatenation like on strings. It's actually just going to add the char values of the like the numeric values. You notice how remember how I told you every character has a number associated with it? It's actually going to add those two numbers of the two chars, and the result's going to be an int. So I'm going to get a really weird result if I try to do that. So don't do that. What I need to do is I need to make sure at least one of these chars is a string, so that I'm doing string concatenation and not like adding the char values. So I'm going to say string.value of C, and I'm actually going to make them both strings. So I have a string, so now I've converted this char C into a string, and now I'm just adding a string plus a string. And there we go. That will work here. And of course, in order for string concatenation to work, only one of the operands has to be a string. The other one will be implicitly converted to a string, as I've said. So one of them cannot be a string. But I'm going to actually leave them both because I think it's clearer. So that is how we could do that one. Now, there is another way to do this. I called this, when I talked to you about this loop here, I called it an enhanced for loop. Now, there is another kind of loop, and this is like the regular loop, not enhanced for loop. And basically how the regular loop works, we've talked about it before, so I'm not really going to go into that much detail. But basically, you create a variable here and give it a default value usually. Then you put a condition here, like usually using your variable you just created, such as I less than the length of the string. And then afterwards you put some increment here. Technically you can put actually quite a large variety of things here, but usually you'll just increment the variable that you created right here. Okay, so how the for loop works is it first checks this condition. If this condition is true, it runs the body of the for loop, anything I have in here, and then it executes this part, so it increments I. And then it just repeats. It checks this condition, runs the body, increments I. Checks the condition, runs the body, increments I. And whenever it checks the condition and the condition is false, then it doesn't execute the body and skips, it goes outside past the for loop. So it'll go to where my cursor is now. So that's basically how a for loop works. So this for loop, if you pause if you need to, and think about why this for loop would iterate over every index in the string. I starts out as 0. If it's less than the length of the string, runs the body, increments I, runs the body, increments I, until I is greater than or equal to start out length, in which case this condition is false and I go out. So if I wanted to get the character at I could just say char c equals start.char at I, and then I could say result plus equals this. I could say basically this line again. So that's another way of doing it. Now, let's say you didn't want to even deal with chars, you just wanted to be using strings all the time. So let's say instead of actually getting the character at this index as a char, let's say I get the character at this index as just a length 1 string. So I could do that. I could say string_stir equals, I guess I can't use stir again, but I could say like string c, I'll say a, actually equals the substring starting at this index and just going to the next index. So in other words, it's just going to return a string of length 1 containing just the character at index I. And now all I need to do is say result plus equals a plus a, and I don't need to convert these to strings because they already are strings. So I could also do this problem like that. Plenty of ways to do things. And if I had access to the repeat method, I could say a.repeat, repeat 2 instead of a plus a. But this method was added in a later version of Java than CodingBat supports, so we can't use it yet. Or, well, we can't use it in CodingBat. So a plus a. All right. And they, oops, did not mean to click that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Uh, do you seriously delete my code, CodingBat? Okay, love you too. Let me rewrite it real quick. I'll just call it R, for char c colon start out to char array, um, result plus equals c plus empty string plus c plus c. That's a hack. Don't use that hack. Actually, I'm not even going to model bad behavior and use that. I'm just going to do this. String.value of c return r. Okay. And r. Okay. I don't know why they would so rudely delete my code like that. But yeah, they are doing it in a similar manner. All right. That is how we could do that one. Let's move on. Return the number of times that the string hi appears anywhere in the given string. Okay, go ahead and pause and try this. Okay, so we did problems like this before in the warm-up 2 section. Basically, my strategy is going to be to look at every index in the string and see if the text hi starts at that index. The only thing I need to be careful of is if I'm looking at the last index in the string, like this O here, if I tried to check if the string hi started at this index, well, the H would obviously occur where I'm highlighting right now, but then the I would occur after the end of the string. And so therefore, if I tried to look for the I would go out of bounds and I'd get an exception and my program would crash. So the one thing I need to be careful of is that I don't go out of the bounds of the string. So in other words, I want to check every index of the string to see if hi starts there, but I don't want to check the last index, because obviously, right, hi can't start at the last index, because where would the I go, right? There'd be no room for the I. So I only want to check these indices, everything but the last one. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to make a count variable starting at 0 that's going to count every time. I'm going to increment every time I find hi in my string. So I'm going to say int I equals 0, just going to loop through the string, every index of the string. But instead of going to start.length, I'm going to go to start.length minus 1 so that I ignore the last index in the string. And then if the substring from I to I plus 1, or sorry, I plus 2, because I want to get a string of length 2 containing the characters from stir starting at index I. If this is hi, then return, sorry, then I need to increment count. And then when I'm done searching through my string for occurrences of hi, I can return the count. And that is going to solve this one. I can elide these curly braces if you want to. They did it very similarly. Some people do this where they don't put a new line. I don't think that is helpful. So I don't do that. But you are free to do that if you want to. And I mean, of course, you're free to add, any random white space you want to anywhere. Well, not there, but anywhere else. So, but there are style conventions that you should probably follow. Okay, so that's how we could do this one. Another way of doing this, sort of interesting way of doing this, is saying, does the substring going from I to the end, so remember, if you just pass one argument to substring, it'll take the string starting at that index and going to the end. So does the substring starting at index I and going to the end, does that start with hi? Then if it starts with hi, then we increment count. Kind of an interesting, different way to do it. And notice that the starts with method actually will handle like all index checking for you. So it won't give you any out of bounds exceptions, any crash. So your program won't crash because if you give like a too long string. So I actually don't need to stop one short of the end, right? I probably still should stop one character short of the end because I know that there will never be hi starting at the last index in the string. Um, but I don't need to because starts with will actually be nice and will check for me that if the string I pass here is longer than what I am checking it against, it will not throw an exception. It'll just return false. So that is how. And when I say throw an exception, that just means like cause one of those nasty error messages to occur that crash your program. Um, so yeah, that is how we could do that one, and we already looked at their solution. Return true if the string cat and dog appear the same number of times in the given string. Oh, and by the way, before we do this one, I wanted to talk about one thing in the doubleChar question that I just remembered. So I talked about regex, and I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail about regex, but there is a special way to do this using, or not special, but a very concise way of doing this using regex. And the way you do that is basically do starOut replace all, and I'm going to replace every occurrence of any character with that character twice, and that's going to solve the problem. So what this does, $0, is this basically is going to be whatever text you matched here. So if this matched, the first character of the string, capital T, then $0 here would be capital T. So I'm just putting two $0s to be two occurrences of whatever I matched here. So again, I'm not going to explain this too much because regex is a higher level thing than CodingBat really demands. But I'll put the solutions in using regex whenever they are applicable. So that's another alternative way to do this one. Okay, yeah, so let's go on. Return true if the string cat and dog appear the same number of times in the given string. Okay, go ahead and pause and try this one. All right, let's go ahead and solve this one here. Yeah, go ahead and pause and solve it if you haven't already. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and solve this one. So return true if the string cat and dog appear the same number of times in the given string. So I'm going to make two counters called my cat counter and my dog counter that are going to both start at 0. And since both of these strings are the same length, like the string cat and the string dog, I can actually do them both in the same loop. And so like how when I was searching for hi, I wanted to stop 1 before the end. When I'm searching for cat or dog, I want to stop 2 before the end because these strings have length 3. So I'm going to say I less than startout length minus 2. And then I'm going to say if the substring starting at I starts with dog, again, you don't have to do it this way, but this is one way to do it. If it starts with, or I'll do cat first. If it starts with cat, then I increment my cat counter. If it starts with dog, then I increment the dog counter. So not the dig counter, the dog counter here. And then I just return if the number of cats equals the number of dogs. All right, there you go. Yeah, so that is how we could do this one here. All right, let's move on. Let's see. Yeah, is there anything else I want to talk about here? No, not really. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Well, um, let's see. I'm trying to think if I should talk about something here. Um, what you could do, I'll talk about this way of solving it, but I won't actually code it. Um, what you could do is you could use the index of method to jump from like one occurrence to the next. So I could, let's say I was looking at this string. I could say, where's the index of cat? The first index of cat. I could say, oh, it's right here. Okay. So now cut off all this of my string, this part of my string, and now I ask, where's the first index of cat? And in this case, it's nowhere. So in other words, I'm going to find the first cat, occurrence of cat. I'm going to increment my counter or whatever. And then I'm going to chop off every part of the string before that cat. And then I'm going to ask, okay, now where's the first cat that occurs in the string? And it'll take me somewhere else. Or maybe it tells me -1 and I'm done. And I can do that to keep finding the cats. Um, the solution I have here is just fine. And I would honestly just stick with this solution. But the index of way is another way of doing it here. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Return the number of times that the string code appears anywhere in the given string, except that we'll accept any letter for the D, so cope and COOE count. Okay, go ahead and pause and try this one. Okay, let's go ahead and solve this one here. Okay, so basically it's going to be the same strategy where we're looping through and counting the occurrences of a given, thing in a string, a given word or text in the string, which we've already done twice so far, I think. So let's go and do that. So we want to stop 3 short because code has 4 characters in it. The only interesting thing here is that the third character, the D, can be any character, any other character. So here's what we'll do. So basically, here's what we can do. So I could, so here's what I'll do. I'll take the substring from index I to I plus 2. So I'll just take the first 2 characters, so which should be CO, and I'll see if they equal CO, CO. I could, of course, do this to starts with if I wanted to. Okay, and the character at index I plus 3, sorry, I plus 2, if this character, sorry, not I plus 2, I plus 3, this is where the E should be, and this character equals E. So if that is true, then I'll increment my count. I really wish the editor was bigger. Okay, but we can do it like this. And so now that would solve this one here. Another way of doing this, if you wanted to use regex, is you can use the matches method on regex. So I can say str.substring I to I plus 4 will give me the substring I'm looking for, and if this matches the CO and then dot period means any character, CO any character E, if it matches this pattern, then this will also do the trick here. And I just want to try something real quick, so humor me for just a second. I want to try and see if I can find a really sneaky way to do this. I guess I'll put the editor size back. I really wish they just made it bigger. Okay, because I'm trying to zoom in so y'all can see, because like I can see plenty fine like here, you know. Well, okay, not there, but like here. But I want y'all to be able to see it easily too, especially if you're not on HD. But I'm gonna try to find some other sneaky way to do it. And so here's my strategy. I'm gonna do underscore plus stir plus underscore, and I honestly don't even want to explain what I'm doing. Dot split CO anything. This split method uses regex. dot length, and I think I want to subtract 1. Okay, that will also do it. I guess, okay, I'll explain this briefly. Okay, so basically, imagine this stuff in parentheses just said stir for a second. I'll explain why I put the underscores there momentarily. Um, okay, but basically, this split method is going to basically take your string and split it into an array of strings. And that array is going to be split around every occurrence of this given regex, every match of this given regex. So for example, if I were to look at this first string, if I called this string dot split co period d, this is the only match of that regex. So the returned array would contain two strings, this and this. So you see what I mean by split around every occurrence. Let's do another example. So if I called this method with split, the array would contain this, 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 and then this. So 4 elements. And that's why I'm subtracting 1, right? Because you saw that I had 4 elements here, so that means I must have had 3 codes, or code-like things. Yeah, and I guess I should have said this when I was talking about this section. Or let's see, C, O. Okay, so that doesn't even work. Okay, so never mind. So my 3 splits, my 3 things in the array would be this, this, and this. I didn't look very closely there, but yeah. So I had 3 things in my array. So the number of codes I had was 2. So, and then the reason I'm adding the underscores is because sometimes, or not sometimes, whenever you have a match that occurs at the start of the string, the split method adds a random empty string to the returned array of strings. So like if I had a match, like if let's say I had code here, it would give me an empty string for like right here, right where my cursor is. And I don't want that empty string in my array. So if I add an extra underscore at the beginning, I can guarantee that I won't have a match that starts at the beginning. And I actually don't think I need the underscore at the end. Oh, yes I do. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, because also if I have a match at the end. So if I have a match at the end, it does not give me a random empty string at the end. But if I have a match at the beginning, it does give me a random empty string at the beginning. So I think this is the one that I actually don't need. Yeah, so then it will still work. So yeah, brief explanation. But we can stick to the for loops for now. I'll put it that way. Okay, so let's move on. Given 2 strings, return true if either of the strings appears at the very end of the other string, ignoring case differences. Go ahead and pause and try this one. Oh, by the way, there is a method, equals. So we know about the equals method on strings, but there's another method called equals ignore case if you'd like to use that one. Okay, now go ahead and pause and try this. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this. So true if either string appears at the end of the other string. So I'm going to first make them both lowercase because case differences don't matter. I'm not actually going to use the equals ignore case method, but I did want to tell you about it in case you wanted to use it in your solution. So I'm going to convert A to lowercase, B to lowercase. And all I need to do is return if A ends with B or B ends with A. Again, the ends with method is very useful. Return true if the given string contains an appearance of xyz where the xyz is not directly preceded by a period. So xxyz counts, but x.xyz does not. Okay. Pause and try this one. All right, so let's do it. Basically what I'm going to search for is I'm going to search for a length 4 substring where the first character can be any character but period and the last 3 characters are xyz. So that's my strategy. So I'm going to stop, well, I'm going to stop, I'm going to loop through and I'm going to stop 3 before the end of the length, the end of the string. And I'm going to increment, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if start.substring. So the first character, I don't care what it is as long as it's not a period. So if, I guess first I'll check that start.char at 0 is not a period, and start.substring I plus 1 to I plus 4, these will be the three characters after that first one, equals XYZ. And then if I find that at any point, I'm going to return true. So this is going to stop my whole method. It's going to take me out of the if statement, out of the for statement, and return true and out of the whole method. So whenever I hit this, I'm going to return true right away. And if I never hit this, if I loop through the whole string, I never find an occurrence of XYZ not preceded by a period, then I return false. And let's see, what have I done? So where XYZ is not preceded by a period. So let's see. So mine is running true on this one. Really? Let's see. Sorry. This should be starOut.char at I. There we go. That would make it a bit better. And then what am I still failing on? Let's see. Geez, I wish this editor was bigger. Okay. And then I'm also failing on this. Oh, and that's because I'm not checking the start. So I can also say, first thing I'll just do is I'll say if start.starts with XYZ, then of course we have found it. So return true. And if you really wanted to, you could do this, although it's kind of dumb to loop through the whole array and then check if, oh yeah, if there's one at the beginning. Okay, so that's how we could do that one. Again, other ways to do it, but that's one way of doing it. If you wanted to be, because I'm just going to use regex, if you'll humor me for just a second, another way we could do this is we could say str.substring I to I plus 4 matches not a period, and I believe it'll let me just put period here, although I'm not quite sure. Matches not a period XYZ. So I believe this period will not be interpreted as meaning any character, but I'm not quite sure. Okay, yeah. So this is another way to do it using regex. And if you'll humor me for one more moment, I'm going to try a sneaky solution here. Okay, so I'm going to just return. I'm going to use this. I'm going to return if str dot matches, the whole string matches dot star, and then some occurrence of XYZ not preceded by a period, semicolon. There we go. That's another way of doing it in one statement. So here's what's going on here. So basically I'm testing if there's any occurrence of XYZ in the string that's not preceded by a period. So this part I highlighted here means not preceded by a period. So if you put question mark less than exclamation mark, this means not preceded by. And then this thing here, so normally if I just put a period, that would mean any character. But I actually want to literally match a period, so I can put, if I put two backslashes in front of it, then it's going to literally match the period. And then these two period star means there can be any number of characters before this and any number of characters after this. Any number including 0. So that's what that part means. The star means 0 or more of occurrences of whatever comes before it. So this dot means any single character, and dot star means 0 or more occurrences of any character you want. So again, we can stick with the for loops. Just want to show you, different solutions, especially regex, because it's super useful. But yeah. We need to return true if the given string contains a bob string, but where the middle O-char can be any char. And oh boy, am I tempted to use regex. Go ahead and pause and try this one. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. So middle O-char can be any char, so You probably already know how we're going to do this. We're just going to loop through the string and see if we find such an occurrence. So we want to stop 2 before the end because the string we're looking for is length 3. So if the char at index I equals b and the char at index I plus 2 is b, we're not even going to care what the middle char is. So if this character is b and the one 2 steps after is b, then we found a bob string. Otherwise, we have not found a bob string. Would you look at that? We solved it. Okay. Um, and if you wanted to use regex, because I just can't help using regex, we could do it like this here, b.b dot star, and hopefully this kind of makes sense if you were following the last regex thing. Any number of characters before or after, but basically we're looking for b, any character, and then b. So yeah, so that would basically be a bob string, but the O could be anything. Yeah, so there you go. We'll say that a string is xyBalance if for all the x chars in the string there exists a y char somewhere later in the string. So xxy is xyBalance, but xyx is not. One y can balance multiple x's. Return true if the given string is xyBalance. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, here we go. Um, so let's think about this. So if I have a string, and let's say it contains like a bunch of x's, so all we need to do is that make sure that for every x there's a y somewhere later. So let's say I had like x a b x x c x p y f. Okay, so this y right here balances all the x's earlier in the string. Okay, so so basically, as long as I have a y somewhere after every x in the string, so if I have a y somewhere that occurs after every x, then it's xy balanced. But on the other hand, if I have a string like x a b x x c y p x f, I just swap the x and y. Well, now I don't have a y that occurs after every x in the string, and therefore it's not xy balanced. So I just basically reframed the question as, that I think makes it more obvious how you might code it, is just look for, okay, where's the last x in the string, and then ask, is there a y that comes after this x? If there is, the string's xy balanced. If there's not, it's not xy balanced. So I actually don't even need a loop for this. So the the index of the last x, I'll call it last x index, is going to be at stir.last index of x. Pretty straightforward. Um, and now all I need to do is see if there is a y after that that x. So I'm going to say return if the substring starting at that index, so the substring starting at that index, last x index, if this substring contains a y, then it's xy balanced. And so let's see here. Oh, I do, I guess, also need to check that last x index is not -1. So if it is -1, I'm just going to return false. Um, and let's see. Oh, and really, you want me to return true if there's not? Okay. So, yeah, I guess technically that would follow the directions. Yeah, if there are no x stars in the strings, um, then then it would technically be xy balanced if we're following a strict interpretation of these rules. Um, so yeah, that is how we could do this one here. Um, Another way I could say this is return index equals -1 or that, and that would be another way of solving this. I'll actually just call this index because it's shorter. So that is how we could do this one as well. And Yeah, they, with a single reverse loop, so I don't even know if the problem creator saw this solution that I just wrote, but yeah, this is, I think, better than using any loops at all. Um, but yeah, that is how we could do this one. Given two strings A and B, bold this time, create a bigger string made up of the first char of A, the first char of B, the second char of A, second of B, and so on. Any leftover chars go at the end of the result. Okay, go ahead and pause and try this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to figure out what's the length of the shorter string. So min_len equals math.min a.length and b.length. So the length of the shorter string. And then what I'm going to say is I'm going to say I'm going to call a_front is going to be a, but only taking the characters up to min_len. And then b_front, sorry, this should be string a_front, and then b_front is going to be b from up to min_len. So now I know that a_front and b_front have the same length, and these are all of the characters at indices that both strings a and b share. So I can make a result here. And then I'm going to say for int I equals 0, I less than, I really cannot type today, I less than min_len, I plus plus. And then what all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to add the first character of A, or the character at this index in a_front, char at I, and then I'm going to add b_front.char at I, and now I'm almost there. I just need to add any leftover chars here. So the way I'll do that is I'll just add everything that's left from A, so a.substring min_len, and then everything that's left from B. Now notice that one of these is going to be empty because so either a.substring min_len or b.substring min_len is going to be the empty string because min_len is equal to either a.length or b.length or both. So that will add anything that's left over because one of these lines will basically be useless. I just don't know which one it's going to be because I don't know whether A or B is the shorter one. So now I return the result. And that's how we could do this one. Another strategy that I just thought of is, you know, first, make a small variable and a big variable where the small stores the smaller string and the big is the bigger string, and then do it like that. That's another way of going at this problem, but let's move on to the next one. A string and an int in. Return a string made up of in repetitions of the last in characters in the string. You may assume that in is between 0 and the length of the string inclusive. Pause and try this one. Okay, so if CodingBat used a not ancient version of Java, we would have a very nice method called repeat. We do not have that method, so we're going to have to use a loop. So I'll get last in will be the last in characters of stir, which we know we get by doing start_out_length minus in, start_out_substring, start_out_length minus in, and then I'll make a result string as well that's just empty. And then I'll say for int I less than in, I plus plus. If you want to repeat some code in times, you can use a for loop that looks exactly like this. You can just loop up to in, and starting at 0. So all I need to do is say result plus equals last in, and I don't need these curly braces, and I can return the result. There we go. Given a string and an int in, return a string made up of the first in characters of the string, followed by the first in minus 1, and so on. You may assume that in is between 0 and the length of the string inclusive. Go ahead and pause and try this one. Okay, so you could definitely solve this using stuff we know so far. And actually, I'll do that first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to start I out. Instead of starting I out at 0, well, actually first, let me make a result variable. So I'm going to start out I out at in, and I'm going to say while in is greater than or equal to 1, I could do 0, but I'm going to do 1. And then I'm going to say I minus minus. So I'm going to start at in and go down to 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say result plus equals start at substring from from 0 to I. And so that is how we could do this one, sorry. And then I just return the result. And I also put my semicolons on. Okay, so there we go. That's how we could do this one. Another way to do this is to use something called a while loop. So a while loop is another kind of loop that is a bit simpler than the for loop. And basically, it just runs whatever code you put in it while a condition is true. So I'm going to say while in is greater than 0, or in other words, actually I think to make it clearer, while in is greater than or equal to 1, I'm going to add the substring from 0 to n, and then I'm going to decrease in by 1. So you can think about why this is similar to what I've done before, but basically how the while loop works is it checks this condition, runs the body, checks the condition, runs the body, and then once it checks the condition and the condition is false, then it goes past the end of the loop, just like the for loop. So obviously inside the body you want to do something that changes, that has the possibility to change the condition, like whether it's true or false, because otherwise the while loop would just run forever. Like if I didn't have an in minus minus in here, the while loop would just run forever. If I try to run this, it'll say timed out because it just kept going on forever. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. And in this case, actually, I do think the for loop is better, but I did just want to introduce you to the while loop. Okay. Given to strings word and the separator sep, return a big string made out of count occurrences of word, separated by the separator string. Okay, go ahead and pause and try this one. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so word in the separator sep. Okay, so we're gonna do, here's what we'll do. I'll start with a result string actually. Result starts out as empty, and it can say for int I equals 0, I less than count. I just want to do something count times, so I'm going to do it like this. And in fact, because basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the word followed by the separator. And I'm going to add the word separator, word separator, word separator. But I want to do that count minus 1 time. So like count is 3 here, so count minus 1 is 2. So I want to add word followed by separator, word separator twice. And then I'm just going to add one occurrence of the word to the end, right? Because I can't do word separator again because it's not supposed to end with a separator. It's supposed to end with a word. So I'm actually going to do this count minus 1 times. I'm going to say result plus equals word plus the separator. And then at the end, I'm just going to add on another word here and then return the result. And yeah, so let's see. And then yeah, I guess I also, because there's a possibility that count could be 0, I actually want to have a special check for that. So I can say if the count is 0, return the empty string. Yeah, so I could also do that. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so that is how we could do that one. I was just thinking if there's another way to make this code more concise, and I'm sure there is, but not one that comes to me right now. So there is another way to do this though that is, takes a completely different approach. So it actually does not use regex, but it uses another method I haven't told you about, so I wouldn't expect you to know it. But there's a method called string.join, and what you do is you pass in a separator string, such as sep, and then what you pass is just a bunch of items, a bunch of things that you want. You basically pass an array of strings, um, and it's going to, the string.join method is going to return all those strings separated by the separator, like as a single string, exactly what this problem is asking. So what I want to do is I would like to just pass in like, word um, a bunch of times. Like, I pass in an array that contains um, just count occurrences of word. So I can do that. I can say string array strs equals new string array containing count elements, and then I'm going to fill. I hope I talked about arrays.fill. It just fills the array with the given value. I'm going to fill every occurrence, everything in strs with word, every index with word. And then I can pass in my array here, and that's, let's see, will not do it apparently. Let's see. Oh, sorry, because I want to pass the array, not that. There we go. Okay, so that is another way of doing this, using the string.join method if we want to look at the documentation for the string.join method, you can do so right here. Yeah, so basically it takes in char sequence. Don't worry about char sequence yet. Just know that a string is a char sequence. It's a kind of char sequence, so we can use strings here. So delimiter, or other words, separator, and then just an array of elements again. Don't worry about the dot dot dot. Just know that that means array here. So like it also lets you do something else, but for now, just know that we can pass an array here. And so this basically will take a separator and a bunch of elements in an array, and then it will concatenate the elements in an array separated by separator. So that is how we could do this. There's yet another way of doing this that's even more concise, and that is to still use the join method, but to do collections.inCopies, and then separator, not separator, word count. And let's see. Okay, given, I think I did the order wrong. It goes count and then the word. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. And what's going on here, very similarly, basically, there are things in Java called collections, which we won't get to in CodingBat until much later, but we will get to them. So collections are basically like, so an array, right? We know certain things about an array. It has like a fixed number of elements, and you can assign to those elements, right? And it has certain properties. Um, collections are just other ways of storing a bunch of different items, like just like an array stores a bunch of different items, but different kinds of collections have different properties. Um, so like there's something called a set, and a set contains a bunch of elements, but it doesn't give those elements an order. So there's no order to the elements. And another property of sets is that they only contain unique things. So there's no duplicates allowed in a set. So there are a bunch of different kinds of collections too. Um, in this method, collections.inCopies, collections is kind of like the math class. It has a bunch of useful, utility methods in it. So collections.inCopies returns a collection containing this many copies, whatever you pass here, of this thing, which can be a string. It can actually be an integer or anything really. Um, and so the join method also lets you pass a collection here as well as an array here. So this is another way to do this one. Given a string, consider the prefix made of the first inchars of the string. Does that prefix string appear somewhere else in the string? Assume that the string is not empty and that in is in the range 1 to str.length. Okay, so this question is not exactly clear what to do. For example, if you had if str was YYY and in was 2, because it doesn't specify the behavior of overlapping, where overlapping should occur. So I'm going to assume that overlapping is not allowed, that the other occurrence of the prefix is not allowed to overlap with the prefix. So I'll code it under that assumption. Okay, so let's do that. So the prefix is going to be the substring from 0 to n, of course. And then, and by the way, I don't remember if I asked you to pause and try it, but please do. Okay, so the prefix is going to be the substring from 0 to n, of course. and I want to see if this occurs somewhere else in the string. So all I need to do is take the substring starting at in. So this is going to be every character after the prefix. So a string containing all the characters after the prefix. And I need to ask, does this contain the prefix somewhere in it? And if it does, I return true, otherwise false. Yeah, pretty straightforward. You can even inline this if you want to and put it all like that. And that would do this one here. And it looks like they do not even test you on the overlapping case unless they do it in here, which I doubt it. Okay, so given a string, does xyz appear in the middle of the string? To define middle, we'll say that the number of chars to the left and right must differ by at most 1. This problem is harder than it looks. Okay, so go ahead and pause and try this one here. Okay, so really the challenge here is just getting the middle of the string. So the middle of the string, the indices of the middle of the string are going to be different whether the string's length is odd or even. So if the string's length is odd, so start out length mod2 is, sorry, remainder 2 is 0, sorry, is not 0, that'll mean it's odd. So if it's odd, and because I like doing the positive case, I'm going to put down here in this else, this will be if the length is odd. I'm going to do the odd case first because I think it's easier. Length is odd. Okay, and I meant to put it back a bit. Okay, there we go. Is this normally where the indentation is? I don't know. Okay, I don't think so. Feels wrong. Okay, so inside this else block is what we're going to do if the length of the string is odd. So for example, the length of this string is odd. Let's call the length of the string in equals 7. The indices of the middle 3 characters, when I say division here, I mean int division, the indices are going to be in over 2 minus 1, in over 2, and in over 2 plus 1. So like in over 2 minus 1 is index 2, which is here, in over 2 is 3, which is here, in over 2 plus 1 is 4, which is here. So all I need to do is return if the substring from, I'll actually say int in equals start out length minus 1. Sorry, not minus 1. And I now see that the indentation was wrong, so I just feel compelled to fix it. Okay, but yeah, so the substring from in minus 1 to in plus 1, sorry, actually I want to go one more than that, right? Because we want the characters at in minus 1, in, and in plus 1, which means we need to do the substring from in minus 1 to in plus 2. So return if that substring is xyz. Okay, and now let's see what we need to do if the length of the string is even. So the length of this string is even, and let's see here. So if it's even, we actually have 2 middles, because notice that I could have the string. Let me go over to the eraser or the marker. So I could have axyz, xyz, b, and then I could also have a, x, y, z, b. And for both of these strings, I should return true because there is xyz occurs in the middle because the number of characters on the left, 1 over here, 2 over here, 1 here, 2 here, equals the number of characters on the right. So left and right, or not equals, but differ by 1 or less. So I actually have 2 cases here if the length of the string is even. So one is this possibility here, where if the length of the string is in equals 6 in this case, the indices I care about are in over 2 minus 2, in over 2 minus 1, and in over 2 are the indices I care about. And then the other possibility is the indices I care about are in over 2 minus 1, in over 2, and in over 2 plus 1. So I'm going to handle both of those possibilities. So I need to return if start out substring from in minus 2 to in plus 1 is xyz, or the substring from n minus 1 to n plus 2 equals xyz. And let's see. Yeah, I need to do some index checking here. Let's see. Oh, sorry, because I don't want to be doing Sorry, I've been doing just in instead of in over 2. And actually, I'm gonna actually just set in equal to in over 2 because I'm never really referring to in proper, only in over 2. So I'm gonna do this instead. And then of course there are gonna be some annoying cases with really short strings. So if the length of the string is less than 2, obviously x, y, z cannot appear in the string. So less than or equal to 2, return false. So yeah, that is how we could solve this one. And in fact, I could rewrite this code like follows. I could put this out here since I see that this part is the same as this part. I could just say if it's even and this case holds, then return true. Return true. Otherwise, return the stuff I have down there. Really wish the editor was bigger. Yeah, so that'd be another way of doing this. And if you really wanted to, you could actually put this all into one line. You could combine this line and the if statement if you wanted to. So yeah, um, I guess it might be kind of confusing because in is actually actually the length over 2 here. But yeah, this is how we could solve this one. Um, yeah, all right, there we go. A sandwich is 2 pieces of bread with something in between them. Return the string that is between the first and last appearance of bread in the given string, and return the empty string if there are not 2 pieces of bread. Pause and try this one. All right, so let's go. So I'm gonna put the size up again. Okay, so uh, the first bread is gonna be we can find the index. Well, obviously, if the first bread. So let's see. Actually, we want the first and last appearance of bread. So bread can be anywhere in the string. So we want the first occurrence of bread we can find with index of, and the last occurrence we can find with the last index of. So basically, I'm gonna say um, first bread. All right, I'll just call it first equals start out index of bread, and then last equals start out last index of bread. And then if first equals last, so well, first of all, if first is -1, then there was no bread in the string. And if first equals last, then there's only one bread in the string. So in both cases, I can return the empty string. But now I know that there are 2 pieces of bread in the string, and to get the text between them, all I need to do is do stir.substring between the 2 pieces of bread. So the character after the first bread is going to be at first plus 5, because 5 is the length of the string bread, and it's going to be it's going to go up until the start of the last occurrence of bread. So that's how we could do this one. And I'm honestly just gonna I could also write this as bread.length. It makes it clear where the 5 comes from if I rewrite it like this. But you could also just leave it as 5. Okay, so let us continue on here. Return true for every star. There are chars both immediately before and after the star, and they are the same. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, let's do it. So basically, I'm gonna loop through because obviously a star at the okay. So well, actually, let me read the instructions carefully. So if there are chars both immediately and before and after the star, they are the same. So I need to loop through all of the interior characters, so all the characters that are not the first nor last characters. And if any of those characters are stars, I'm going to compare the character before and after them and see if those 2 characters are equal. So to go through the interior characters, I don't want to start at 0, but I want to start at 1. And I want to ignore the last character, so I'm going to go starOut length -1. And then if the character at this index is a star, then basically if, well, what I want to do is I want to see, like, okay, I know this character is a star. If the two guys next to it are not equal, then I need to return false. So if the two guys next to it, so the guy before it, does not equal the guy after it, then, uh-oh, we are not good here. We need to return false. So, let's see. What have I done here? If there are chars with immediately after, so if start that is that, and maybe I might have messed something up with precedence here. Not equals does come before and. Okay, so we should be fine there. Let's see. So I'm running false. Interesting. So if for this, I'm running false really. So wait. Okay. So let's see. If that's a star, and the one before it does not equal the one after it. Yeah, why would this be false? Interesting. I really wish I could see all my code at one time. So if the character at that index is star, and the character before and after are not equal, return false, but the character before and after are equal. Sorry, here. So why am I returning false? I'm running false on all of them. Okay, I think I'm probably messing up something somewhere tiny. Well, obviously I'm messing up something somewhere. Um, if char at I equals star, and um, oh, hi, I should really um be better. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so attention to detail, right? Okay, so they pretty much did the same thing. They nested the if statements, which you don't need to do, but you could. Okay, so yeah, that is how we could solve this one here. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next one. Oh, and actually, because again, I can't help myself, I'll actually do a regex one here, or I'll try to do a regex one here. Okay, so to return true. So basically, what we want to say is if there's so if there are any occurrences where there's a character followed by a star followed by a different character than the first one, we want to return false. So if I'm going to write a regex that matches an occurrence where you have character followed by star followed by different character, and then I'm going to negate it. So I'm going to say uh, again anything before or after it. But if I see a character, oh, I wonder if I can do this actually with regex. So if I see a character here followed by a star, um, I need to put the backslashes before it so I match a literal star. Um, followed by let's see, that's where the next character, the question mark equals, is going to look at the next character. Where the next character is not the question mark, exclamation mark means the next thing is not what follows. So is not group 1. I think this will work. If I negate it, it almost works. This runs false here. Okay, so let's see. Some character star, not the first character. Let's see. So the problem here is that this is triggering for asterisks that appear at the end of the string. So let me see if I can work on this real quick. I'm going to pause the recording and try and think about this. Okay, so I figured it out. I also need to add this here. Okay, so This is getting real messy. Okay, but the dot stars at the beginning and end match mean just can be preceded or followed by any whatever character it is you want. And then I'm going to match any character here. Um, and the reason I put it in parentheses is because if you put stuff in parentheses, it'll capture that thing and you can refer to it later. So this \\1 is going to refer to whatever got matched right here. So some random character here got matched. And then it's followed by an asterisk. And then after that asterisk, I say, make sure there is not whatever that first thing was. So whatever this character was, make sure that the asterisk is not preceded by that same character. But also make sure that asterisk is preceded by at least one character. So that's what this saying. So question mark equals means is, sorry, not preceded by, followed by one character. Like any character, right? So if it's followed by a character and it is not followed by this character, then it satisfies the conditions. And so this will run and work here. Again, if the regex is not your thing, you don't need to use it. Given a string, compute a new string by moving the first char to come after the next two chars. So ABC yields BCA. Repeat this process for each subsequent group of three chars. So ABCDF yields BCAEFD. Ignore any group of three, fewer than three chars at the end. Okay. Go ahead and pause and try this one. All right, let's do it. We're going to do a result string here. Result equals empty string. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to step through the string, but I'm going to increment by 3 each time so that I can look at 3 characters at a time. So I'm going to say I less than starOut length once again, but I'm going to jump through it 3 at a time. So I'm going to say I plus equals 3 instead of I plus plus. And then all I need to do is say result. I need to add the second and third character first. So starOut substring I plus 1 to I plus 3. And then I need to add the first character, so the character at I, and then return the result. Well, first of all, actually, before I return the result, I need to add the remaining characters. So the way I can get the remaining characters, so let's say I wanted to round a number down to the nearest multiple of 3. Well, let's say that number is x, and that number, for example, will be 28. So what I can do is I can just say x minus remainder 3. Because x remainder 3, another way of thinking about that is that's the number I'd have to subtract from x to get a clean multiple of 3. And the parentheses are optional, so this is the same as x minus x remainder 3 without parentheses. So I can say, so now x will be, the number that is a multiple of 3. So all I need to do is say result plus equals start substring starting at the last multiple of 3 and going to the end. So starOut length minus starOut length remainder 3, and make sure to return it. And let's see what I've done. Line 4, okay. Substring I to I plus 3. Yeah, I want to also stop 2 before the end, I believe. Let's see. So let's see here. So I am going through here. I'm doing that. I'm swapping the first 3. I'm doing the next 3. I'm doing the next 3. But I'm not getting this last 0, which I thought I would be getting here. So let's see. Startout length minus. So startout length in this case is 10, and so I want to be getting. So I want to actually subtract 1 from this, 1 more from this. Okay, no, I don't. Never mind. So startout length minus startout length mod 3 in this case, and for this example would be 9, and the character at index 9 is 0. Uh, really? Why doesn't that work? Start.length is 10 minus start.length remainder 3. 10 remainder 3 is 1. Um, I'm actually just gonna return this because I'm curious why this is not. Okay, that is 0. Okay, sorry. Um, okay, I'm concerned. Oh, when it says ignore any group of 3 characters at the end, I thought that meant like leave those characters unchanged. I, okay, yeah. Kind of feel like I'm not to blame for that. Because, okay, so ignore any, I didn't know that meant like don't even include them in the results. I thought that meant just leave them unchanged. Okay, so we don't even need to include those extra ones. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Yeah, and let's see, we do need to stop before the end, because if we don't, we may have some bad things happening. So yeah, we need to stop 2 before the end. Um, okay, so that we always have 3 characters going forward if we were to start at any given index I. Okay, so let's see here. Um, you could do this with regex, and because I just have to do it with regex, I'm going to. I'll show you how to do this with regex. So first of all, if we're ignoring characters at the end that that are like ignoring any group of 3 or fewer characters, I can just say str equals str dot substring using that trick I talked to you about, str dot length. Str dot length minus str dot length remainder 3. Um, and then I can do some regex here, regex magic here. I can say replace every occurrence of some character and then some more characters by $1, $0. And that, let's see what is the problem. I don't even know what's causing this. Um, what? 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 Um, should not use println or class or static or exceptions. I am not using println or class or static nor exceptions. Huh? So something's wrong in this code? Is commented out code? Oh, okay. That's better. The the comment was wrong. I used the wrong thing. Okay. And then not $0, $, 2, 1. Okay. Um, what am I doing? Let's see. Replace all occurrences of okay, so start out length minus start out length mod 3. So I actually want to do 0 to that spot, and then that's going to solve it there. And I could inline this if I wanted to. Okay, so basically the replace all stuff, what it's doing is so $1 refers to this first thing in parentheses, and then $2 refers to the second thing in parentheses. So in other words, these last 2 characters, put them first, so $2 is first, and then this first character, put it after it, so $1 comes after. So that is how we could do this one. Yeah, so so that's how we could do that one. All right, let's move on. Look for patterns like zip and zap in the string, length 3 starting with z and ending with p. Return a string where for all such words the middle letter is gone. So zip x zap yields zp x zp. Okay, pause and try this one. All right, so this one is remarkably easy to do with regex, but not so simple to do without. But of course I will show you how to do it without regex. So let's think about how we should do this. So what I'll do is I'll go through each character. Well, I'll start with the results, of course. Um, Actually, let's see. There are a couple ways to do this. I'm really trying to think of the best way. I'll show you both, actually. So we'll start with the result string. And then I'll go through the string. So I'll stop. Actually, I'll go straight to the end here. So start out length, and then I++. And what I'll do is if I find a zip string starting at index I, I'll remove the middle character. Like when I add to result, I'll just add ZP to result, and then skip the I counter ahead. Instead of going ahead just once, it'll go ahead 3 times to skip past the end of the zap or the zip. Um, so what I'll do is I'll say, okay, so if um, well, first of all, I need to check if I even have enough room to find a Z, like a zap kind of string. So I need to say if I is less than start out length -2, and start out char at I is Z and I plus 1 plus 2 is P. Right, scaling down here. So if I find a zap string, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add ZP to my result. And then I'm going to skip the I counter so that it goes past the end of zip. So normally it would just get incremented 1. So I'm going to also increment it by an extra 2 so that it increments by a total of 3 before it goes to the next iteration of the loop. And then otherwise, I just want to add whatever character is there to my result. Just add it in. So result plus equals char at I. And then return the result. Okay, so that's how we could do this one here. Yeah, not really much else I want to do here. But yeah, that is how we could do this one here. And then, okay, so that's one way. I said I'll show you how to do it. Another way is to go through the string, and instead of using a result variable, just keep reassigning stir to different strings where those strings don't contain the i's. So here is what I'll do. So I'll say, I'll start at the end of the string. So I'll start actually one before the end of the string. So stir.length -1. -1, okay. And actually, I'll put this in a separate variable just to be my start. I'll just call it start is stir.length -1, -2 actually, because I want to be looking at, I'm going to be trying to find the I. I'm going to try to be landing on the I. And when I find an I, I'm going to replace stir with a string that contains everything but without the I. So I equals start, and because I don't care if the I happens at the first index, I'm going to go I is greater than or equal to 1, and then subtract decrement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if the char at index I equals I, and the char at I minus 1 equals Z, and the char at I plus 1 equals P, then I'm going to basically reassign stir to, okay, so if you want to omit a character at index I from a string, you can reassign it to the substring from 0 to I plus the substring from I plus 1 to the end. And then I can just return stir. And what have I done now? Missing curly. Okay, so what have I done? And that, okay, so I put an extra parenthesis there. And let's see, okay. So I want to start, let's see. Interesting. So if there's a zap kind of thing at the end, seems not to be working. Let me think about this one real quick. Okay, so I is greater than or equal to 1 if the character at index I is I minus 1 is z, plus 1 is p. I just go and subtract them. Let me see here. Okay, so I guess we can think about just to start, why isn't this one working? Let's think about, let's go here and see. So chart I equals I, sure. I minus 1 equals z, and I plus 1 equals p. Start equals start out substring 0 to I plus 1. And then I assign a start. So that seems to me like that should work. The length of the string is 3. Start is going to be 1. I cannot see why that's not working. Okay, let me go into an IDE and try and figure this out. So let me copy the whole method. Okay, so I'm just going to put the method in here and use it. I need to put the word static in here. Don't worry about that right now. I know. I'm sorry. There's a bunch of things I'm telling you don't worry about, like what they mean, but they're just not that relevant to CodingBat. Okay, but let's take my code here and I want to see why it's not working. So zipZap. So zipZap on and pass it zzp. Why is this not working? So it still gives you a zzp. Okay, so I'm gonna print out some text every time I enter the loop. So sorry, I'll go sysout entered enter the loop because I want to make sure I am entering the loop, which of course I should be, but I don't know why I'm not. Okay, so I am entering the loop. If the char at index I is I, okay, so now I'm going to test if I'm entering the if statement. So sysout entering if. Okay, so I don't enter the if statement. Okay, so start out char I minus 1 is z and char I plus 1 is p. Okay, so I'm going to print out the value of I. So enter the loop I equals I. Okay, and then I'll also print out the char at I guess. Char at I equals start.char at I. Okay, so sorry. Oh, okay, because the character at index I itself doesn't need to be I. Okay, yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, that's just my own logic error. Okay, and then we just need to think about this. Why is this not working? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in here to my code as well. So it's doing this, and it should be printing out zzz pzp. Okay. So I think that is because whenever I decrement I, the string gets one shorter. So if I'm whenever I sorry, I reverse that. Whenever I remove a character from the string, it gets shorter, obviously. But when I decrement I, I'm not taking account of the fact that the string actually just got shorter. So if I make the string shorter, I want to decrement I again. Okay, wait. Maybe I want to increment I? Sorry. I'm still working this out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go over into the IDE then and try and figure this out. Okay, so let's see. You're getting to see live debugging in action. So I know you've experienced stuff like this, like trying to just wondering why your code is not working, but you're going to see me do it. Okay, so that okay, so if I decrement it, no, it does work. It doesn't work. Go. Wait. Let me. Okay, I don't think we have the same code on both screens. So on this, let's put this code here. Oh my goodness, CodingBat, could you not? Okay. So, okay, so my code on my IDE was fine. Okay, so I did have it right. So yeah, you do want to decrement it. Um, okay, so yeah, I'm not losing my mind. Okay, cool. Because I was like, I'm pretty sure you need to decrement it. Okay, so yeah, that is how we could do this one here. Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so now, after all that hassle and trouble, I'll show you how much easier we could have done it with regex. Return stir.replace all. So I'm going to basically replace every occurrence of z followed by any character followed by p with zp. And man, that was easier. Okay, let's move on. Return a version of the given string where for every star in the string, the star and the chars immediately to its left and right are gone. So A, B star C yields AD and AD, and A, B star star C, D also yields AD. Okay, um, so a lot of these problems, like I'm really tempted to use regex, like because I also think this one gets easier with regex. By the way, pause the video if you want to try this one on your own. Okay, so basically, what I'm gonna do is, I mean, I can think of several ways to do it. I'm just trying to say what would be the easiest way to do it. Um, hmm, Here's what I'll do. I'll make a result string. Well, first I'll zoom in on the CodingBat editor, and I'll make a result string, and it'll be empty, and I'll say for each index in the string, stir, I less than stir.length, I plus plus. So if the next character is a star, or the previous character is a star, or this character is a star, I don't want to add it to result. Otherwise, I do want to add it to result. So first I'll check if the previous character was a star. So in order for the previous character to be a star, first of all, I has to be greater than 0, and the character one before I has to be a star. So in that case, I won't include it. And if there's a star right after the character at index I, I'll also not include it. I can already tell I'm going to need to do this. Um, okay, so or so if there's a character after index I, then a star after index I, then I know I must be less than the length of the string minus 1, and the next char is a star, and I'll move this onto multiple lines, even though it's really ugly. And then, or if the character at this index itself is a star. If any of these conditions are true, then I don't want to include it. So I'm actually just going to not do anything in this if statement. And then otherwise, I do want to include it. So result plus equals start.char at I, and then return my result here. I really wish that keyboard shortcut that they say existed, but it does not. I've tried it many times. Okay. Let's see. First I boolean. Okay, so let's see what is the error I'm getting. I accidentally used equals instead of equals equals. Classic mistake, and that will solve that one. Okay. So this code right now is kind of a mess. So one reason it's bad is because I have an empty if statement, which is just weird. So let's not do that. So what I'll do instead is I'll say what I want to do is if this thing here, this whole messy Boolean expression, is not true, I want to do something. So instead of just saying if it is true, do nothing, otherwise do something, which is kind of a stupid way to say it, I'll just say if this whole thing is not true, then do something. Otherwise, don't even worry about it, man. So that is how I could do this a bit better. Now, if I applied De Morgan's law, which I've mentioned previously, I could make this a bit simpler. So I'll try and do that here. So in order to apply De Morgan's law, I need to negate this whole thing. I'm going to just really space it out so I can do this here. So I need to negate each part. So first of all, I need to switch the ands. I'm going to delete the original one. I need to flip the ands, or sorry, the ors to ands. And then I need to negate each part, so I need to negate this part and negate this part and negate this part, and I'll make this even more simpler later. So that will also do it, and then I can apply De Morgan's law further, so I can negate this by changing this, and I guess I could just say equals equals 0 there. So I can do this here, and then to negate this, I would have to say greater than or equal to, and then this would be or, and then this would be not equals there. Now that's been negated. And then to negate this, I don't need De Morgan's law, I just need to do that. Okay, and what have I done? Gonna undo until it works again. Okay. Okay, so wait. Okay, so there it was working. And then I need to apply De Morgan's law here, so I'll negate this. Okay, so that worked, right? Okay, that worked. And then oh, it's because I need those parentheses. Okay, sure. And then this should be greater than or equal to, this should be or, this should be not. If you don't remember De Morgan's law, you might be very confused at what I'm doing right now. And then this will be not here. Okay, and then so this is another equivalent way of writing what I just had written there, using some laws of Boolean logic. So yeah, I don't know that it's really that much cleaner. And it might be better, honestly, to split this up into different if statements or do something else. But yeah, this is how we could do this one. Now, what I'd actually think would be kind of a good way to do this is to first combine all of the asterisks into a single asterisk. So imagine I was about to point my fingers at the screen, but you can see my fingers. So imagine I condensed all these asterisks into a single asterisk. The problem would still be equivalent, right? The result would still be the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to condense the asterisks. This is using regex now, so this is not something I would have expected or that you should be able to do. But I'm going to replace every occurrence of an asterisk, or sorry, every occurrence of multiple asterisks. So I'm just putting these in parentheses to group them now. So multiple occurrences of an asterisk with just a single asterisk. That's what I'm going to do here. And this should not change the result, just to verify. Correct, it does not change the result. Oops, no, don't do that. And I believe I want to check if I need the parentheses. Okay, I don't. And then what I want to do is I'm going to replace then replace every occurrence of a possible character followed by an asterisk followed by a possible character with nothing. And then I can return stir, and I think this should do the job here. Okay, so that does it as well. And basically, the question mark just means that the thing before the question mark is optional. So period question mark means a character there, but it might not be there. It doesn't need to be there. And this handles cases where the star is at the beginning or the end of the string. So this is how we could do this. We could actually inline this by saying star equals star dot replace all that. Dot replace all that. And then I could even inline this further by putting this. here. By the way, CodingBat supports the Control D shortcut. If you do Control D while you're on a line, it'll delete. Oops, that's the wrong shortcut. It'll delete that line like that. So also something you can use. But yeah, that is how we could do that one. Given a string and a non-empty word, return a version of the original string where all chars have been replaced by pluses except for appearances of the word string, which are preserved unchanged. Okay, so wonderful. Go ahead and pause and try this one. All right. Um, okay, let's see. I'm just gonna leave it at 100. Okay, so let's go and do this here. So what I'm gonna do is it's sort of similar to one of the problems we just did. Let me see which one. It's gonna be similar to this one here, where actually no, not that one. Uh, it's gonna be similar to the original solution we did to the zipZap one. Before I showed you a different one. Okay, but what we're gonna do, I'm gonna loop through the characters, right? If the character, we're gonna loop through the characters and stir. If this character is part of a word, occurrence of word, then we're gonna basically what we're gonna do. Well, okay. So first of all, if it's not an occurrence of word, it's not part of an occurrence of word, then we're just gonna add it to the result. If it is part of word, we're gonna, upon reaching the first character where we see the word, we're gonna just add a word to the result and then skip I, our index in our loop, up to past the end of the word occurrence. So let me just do that here. So for int I equals 0, I less than start out length, I plus plus. So I'm going through all the characters here. And here's what I want to do. So first of all, I'm going to check if I find an occurrence of word as starting at index I. So if the substring starting at index I starts with word, then we're going to have to just add word to result, and then I'm going to skip I up to the end of word. So what I'm going to do is I want to add a total of word.length to I, but since I is also going to get incremented right here, I'm actually just going to add word.length -1, and then this I++ will pick up that extra one that I dropped here. So otherwise, we just want to add the character to the string. So result plus equals starOut at I, and there you go. Return result. Let's see about that. Okay. Oh, because I don't want to add the character, I want to add a plus. That might be a good idea. Okay, there we go. So that's how you could do this one here. Given a string and a non-empty word string, return a string made of each char just before and just after every appearance of the word in the string. Ignore cases where there is no char before or after the word. So wait, what does that mean? Ignore everything if there are no occurrences? Okay, so no, it says ignore. Okay, so what it means is ignore characters that may ignore indices that would fall out of bounds, basically. Um, but don't ignore the side of the word occurrence that falls in bounds. Ignore cases where there's no char before or after the word. And a char may be included twice if it is between two words. Okay, so go ahead and pause and try this one here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to create a result. And all I'm going to do is go through my string stir here. And whenever I see the string word, I'm going to add the character before and after it. So here's what I'll do. I'll say if stir.substring I starts with word, all I need to do is I'll say if I is greater than 0, then add the character before word. So result plus equals starOut.char at I -1. And then if I plus the length of the word is less than the length of the string, less than starOut length, then I want to add the character afterwards. So that's going to be at index I plus word.length, which is why I first checked if it's inbounds. Okay, and then otherwise I don't think I want to do anything else. So I just return result. And you expected something somewhere. A parenthesis right there. Okay, so that's how we could do that one. Yeah, and really, I feel like if you just forget about these if statements for a second, it's pretty clear what we're doing. Whenever we find a word, we're adding the character right before the word and right after the word. We just need those extra if statements so that so that we don't go out of bounds. Okay, so that was the end of the string2 section. Bit of a longer one this time. But yeah, I hope you got some more practice with strings. I had fun making this episode. I like, having ones where I like mess up and can't figure it out and get frustrated because, that's a summary of coding. And you'll learn to enjoy it or you'll quit coding. Either one. See you next time.